Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to everybody who's here on our Bel Air campus. Thank you so much for joining us. And to all of you joining from home, wherever you're joining from, thank you for making Stephen Wise Temple part of your Shabbat practice. We're so glad that we have this gift of Shabbat, and our cantorial intern, Andrew, is with us this evening, and our brand new music director, Tali Tadmore. Welcome, Tali. Thank you so much for being with us. And our wonderful Jeff Stern later in our service. Rabbi Josh Noble is going to share words of Torah. It's July 1st, and so we're leading into the holiday weekend, which some of you, if you had forgotten that memo, you saw it when you got in your car trying to get up here because you saw what was going on out there. But here is this weekend when we have an opportunity to give thanks for what America stands for. And we think about liberty at this time. And, of course, how can we not think about what's transpired over the last week? And we think about personal liberties, and as Jews, our tradition's teaching on reproductive freedom is quite clear, and so it's been a very troubling week for us. But what do? We dedicate ourselves as we move forward with determination and sometimes patience that is hard sometimes to muster up. We dedicate ourselves to moving forward and trying to make sure that those liberties can be protected in the future. So we'll find things to give thanks for, and we'll find things to give praise for. And of course, there's always a reason to give thanks and praise when we have a community to celebrate Shabbat with. It gives us hope, and it gives us strength, and it provides us with much needed comfort at the end of a long week. So we'll continue with our candle blessing on page 2, and the Rotkin family is going to join us. Louis is going to be becoming bar mitzvah in a couple of months, but soon enough. And so Aaron and Michael and Louis, come on up. And those of you joining from home, feel free to light your candles right along with us as we bring in the light of Shabbat. You can find it on page 2 of your prayer book.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddashanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Shel Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. On page 20, Lecha Dodi, this beautiful piyut, which is a technical term for a liturgical poem. This one dates back about 500 years. Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz is the author, and it's a love poem about the love that God has for us by giving us the gift of Shabbat, and the love we reciprocate by accepting that gift and embracing it. Shabbat doesn't just happen. We have to make it happen. And that's part of what this day celebrates, but it's also part of what this prayer celebrates. Page 20, Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi, Yalai likrat kala, Yalai penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabel, la Lecha Dodi, Yalai likrat kala, Yalai penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabel. Shamor v'zahor b'libor echad, hishmiyanu el hamiyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shem hu tiferet, v'liti la 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 la, Yalai lecha Dodi, Yalai likrat kala, Yalai penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat, lechuvan elcha, ki mekor habracha, meirosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshavat ha'ila. Shalom, Atzeret Ba'alam, Gam Besimcha, Uvetzahala, Toch Emunei, Am Segulah. La la la, ya la lecha Dodi, la likrat kala, ya la penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela, la lecha Dodi, la likrat kala, ya la penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela.
You can be seated. On page 22, Psalm 92 is a special psalm for the Sabbath day. It begins Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, a song for the Sabbath. And down in the middle of the page, there's a beautiful section, Sadik katamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon yizgeh, this belief that righteousness, and we need this message always, but perhaps especially now, a belief that righteousness will flourish. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will come in time, and we never stop hoping for that day that is, according to the rabbis, Yom Shekulo Shabbat, a day that is like Sabbath all the time, which is the world perfected. And so as Andrew and Tali and Jeff lead us in this, let's think about the ways that we can help justice blossom and bloom now, speedily in our day.
Sadik katamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon yizgeh shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu od yenuvun beseva teshenim merananim lehagid ki Ashar Adonai Tzuri Tzuri velo avlat habo.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for that beautiful setting. And thank you, Tali. That's your arrangement of the classic Lewandowski, Sadik Katamar. We'll continue with our call to worship, Baruch Hu. It's on page 28. Please rise as you're able.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barehu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Yadalai lai lai, 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 yadalai lai lai.
God, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Page 34 and 35, Shema Yisrael points to the fundamental truth and the fundamental mystery of this world. There is a oneness, there is a connection, all beings, all moments, all experiences are somehow connected through the one God, maker of this one world.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. And you shall love Adonai with all your soul and all your might, and teach these words through day and night to all your children, for it's their right, and wear them proudly as a sign upon your hand, and as a crown above your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates throughout all time. Please join me. And you shall love Adonai, Adonai, with all your soul and all your might, and teach these words through day and night to all your children, for it's their right, and wear them proudly as a sign upon your hand, and as a crown above your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates throughout all time.
Chamocha, our prayer of liberation and freedom, can be found on page 40. And on this Independence Weekend, we can think about the freedoms we cherish, the freedoms we long for, and the things we can do as citizens to help make sure those freedoms are protected, not just for ourselves, but for our fellow citizens, for our children, and for the generations to come.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Torah tehilot, osei velech, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh.
Page 44, Hashkiveinu. It's a prayer for shelter, a prayer for peace. Traditionally, it's said in the evenings. As the sun sets, as darkness falls, we ask for God's Sukkot Shalom, the shelter of God's presence. And I wish all of you joining online could be with us here, because we're feeling that with this shade above us and this community surrounding us, this beautiful breeze, in this beautiful setting. We feel that sense of that sukkah, that sense of shelter. We want that not just for ourselves, but for our world. And so not only do we say thank you for the shelter we experience when we say Hashkiveinu, but we also remind ourselves that we have an obligation to try to bring that Sukkot Shalom to others.
Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom, L'Shalom, V'ha'amideinu Shomreinu L'chaim, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. 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 Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom, L'Shalom, V'ha'amideinu Shomreinu L'chaim, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha.
We offer a prayer for healing, refuah shlema, for all those in need of healing. We think of loved ones and friends who might need to hear these prayers, and also strangers, people who are not known to us, but who we know are suffering. And so on page 253, we invite you to join us for this prayer for healing.
Sheberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Sheberach imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those
On Friday evenings, our Amidah is recited silently, and so I'll invite you to turn to page 48 in the prayer book, where the Amidah begins, continues all the way through page 62, and be inspired by the words of the prayer book. Add your own words of praise and thanksgiving, and also those petitions where we ask God for the most worthy blessings of our heart. I'll invite you all to stand as you're able and to take a few moments for reflection and silent prayer.
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Shabbat Shalom. This week's Parsha is named after its primary antagonist, Korach, who ignites a mutiny against Moses and Aaron by challenging their authority, stating, Chol ha'edah kulam kedoshim, uvtocham Adonai, umadua titnasu al kahal Adonai. All among the community are holy, all of us, and Adonai is in our midst. Why then do you, Moses and Aaron, raise yourselves above Adonai's congregation? Shocked, Moses sets up a showdown for the next day, with Korach and his followers on one side, Moses and Aaron on the other, each preparing offerings to God and awaiting God's response. In the morning, Korach rouses the community to watch, and once the offerings are made, God appears and threatens to wipe out the entire congregation of Israel. Moses and Aaron then beseech God to only punish the rebellious Korach and his followers. The story ends when the ground swallows up Korach and his disciples, taking them directly to the underworld. God intervenes twice in this tale, each time with violent intent that deserves our scrutiny. First, God administers capital punishment to Korach and his followers, an act which may be troubling for modern Jews. After all, Korach's argument seems reasonable enough. If the entire community is holy, why do Moses and Aaron get to sit atop the hierarchy? Couldn't there be a more equitable way to share authority among God's people? Maybe there is. But while Korach justifies his insurrection by suggesting that all Israelites should be held in equal regard, it's clear from his actions he doesn't intend to replace Moses and Aaron's leadership with some sort of democracy. Rather, he intends to supplant them. Korach initiates the challenge to their leadership. Korach participates in the showdown, and Korach gathers the whole community to witness his triumph. You see, Korach isn't upset because Moses and Aaron are in charge. He's upset because he isn't. And from this, we learn that it's far more important to watch what people do than to listen to what people say. Korach's rebellion isn't folded in the seductive words of equality and dignity, but his actions reveal that his intentions are anything but equitable, which is why, according to the sages, he suffers a gruesome demise. But even before God punishes Korach, God puzzlingly threatens to destroy the entire Israelite community. Even Moses and Aaron seem genuinely surprised by the scope of God's wrath. And so they ask God, Ha'ish echad yechateh va'al kol ha'edah tiktsof? When one man sins, should the entire community feel your wrath? Their entreaty supposes that God's anger is misplaced. But while God relents and allows Moses and Aaron to separate the Israelites from Korach before God's punishment arrives, God never acknowledges their dissent. Clearly, the community has sinned, even though in the moment, Moses and Aaron don't recognize it. And that's because the people's sin is one of omission. When Korach rouses the Israelites from their bed to witness his showdown with Moses and Aaron, no one speaks up. No one interjects. No one interferes. No one resists. And God, unlike Moses and Aaron, isn't content to allow the Israelites to simply sit out the struggle on the sidelines. God expects the Israelites to voice their support for Moses and Aaron, to disrupt Korach's cynical grab for power, to pursue justice. And since they fail to act, they, just like Korach, earn a place of infamy in this story. These two lessons that were best served by heeding people's actions rather than their words, and that we are not permitted to sit on the sidelines of injustice, are just as critical to our people today as they were for our ancestors, because they show us exactly how we must respond to the injustices around us, including the grave injustice of last week's Supreme Court ruling in Dobbs versus Jackson, and the subsequent torrent of opportunistic state legislation designed to restrict the freedoms of women. some of you may disagree with that last statement, and I won't try to convince you otherwise. Instead, I can only refer you to statements published by our nation's major Jewish movements, Reform, Conservative, and yes, even Orthodox, which express their categorical opposition to the cascade of state anti-abortion legislation that bears little to no regard for the lives and welfare of American women. Some others among you might be thinking, I really don't want to talk about this on Shabbat. Guess what? I wish we weren't talking about this either. But let's be clear. We're not talking about politics. We're not. We're talking about Judaism. Because according to Jewish law, human life does not begin at conception. And while Jewish law mandates that the potential for life deserves our care, it also mandates that our obligation to potential for life should never supersede our responsibility to existing life, and that it should never prevent access to abortion care that would ensure the physical and mental well-being of a mother. Not the life of a mother, the well-being of a mother. Only a fundamentalist Christian theology believes that life begins at conception, which means that the anti-abortion legislation that we've seen in the past week represents an attack upon the free exercise of religion for Jews, for Muslims, for Buddhists, for Hindus, and countless more, including many Christians. Now, this can be difficult to remember because the political leaders of the anti-abortion movement, just like Korach, have clothed their crusade in the seductive prose of safeguarding life, even calling themselves pro-life. But as we learned from Korach, we have to look at people's actions, not their words, in order to determine their true intent. And what actions would we expect from a movement dedicated to safeguarding the lives of children? We might expect them to ensure the adoption of every one of the more than 100,000 children in our nation's foster care system, especially children of color who disproportionately remain in the system longer than white children. Because that's what you do when you care about the lives of children. We might expect them to eliminate homelessness for families, because that's what you do when you care about the lives of children. We might expect them to ensure that families have unfettered access to quality health care, preschool, diapers, formula, and childcare, because that's what you do when you care about the lives of children. We might expect them to expand access to birth control and sex education, to ensure that babies can be born to prepared and loving mothers, because that's what you do when you care about the lives of children. Now, to be certain, there are proponents of anti-abortion who also champion these causes. But there are countless more who show little to no concern for mothers, for families, even for children once they've already been born. For these people, a group that includes way too many religious leaders and elected representatives, outlawing abortion isn't about saving lives at all. It's about votes. It's about control. It's about making Christian fundamentalism the law of our land. And maybe, more than anything, it's about putting women back in their place. And what place is that? In the state of Mississippi, there is a woman who will die because her state, in order to safeguard her fetus, forbids her from receiving necessary cancer treatments during pregnancy. This is a woman's place, according to the state of Mississippi. And this is what we as American Jews cannot allow. In the state of Texas, there is a woman who will die because she'll be forced to wait until it's too late to receive the proper care for her miscarriage, lest a potentially viable fetus be injured in the process. This is a woman's place in the state of Texas. And this is what we as American Jews cannot allow. In the state of Oklahoma, there is a 15-year-old woman who will be forced to give birth to her own sister because she's been sexually abused by her father since she was 9 years old. This is a woman's place, according to the state of Oklahoma. And this is what we cannot allow as American Jews. In the state of Kentucky, there is a woman who will die because her boyfriend will kill her upon learning that she's pregnant, since murder actually represents the highest cause of death for pregnant women in the United States. This is a woman's place, according to the state of Kentucky. And this is what we, as American Jews, cannot allow. And in so many states, they're all listed here, but I can't even read them all. There's a woman who could have been the next Mary Curie, or the next Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or the next Brandy Chastain, or the next Sheryl Sandberg, or the next anything, except now she won't, because she's no longer in control of her own body. She won't get to choose if she finishes high school, or if she goes off to college, or if she takes that impressive internship, or if she even follows her dreams. Because this is a woman's place in a misogynistic, fundamentalist, Christian-controlled America. And this is what we as American Jews cannot allow. Rather, we must speak up. We must interject. We must interfere. We must resist. Because if we don't, then the blood and the indignity of an entire nation of women will stain not only the perpetrators of these crimes, it'll stain us as well. Monday is our Independence Day. I know a lot of people don't quite feel like celebrating. In fact, I recently read a post online that said Independence Day had been canceled due to a shortage of independence. And I don't want to suggest that we shouldn't despair. There is cause for despair. But I also want to remind us that on July 4th, 1776, we didn't win our independence. We declared it. And then we fought like hell to make it happen. Now we have to do it again. And when we win our independence once more, then we'll be able to say, as Korach only promised in mockery, that no one in God's community has been lifted over another, and that all of us, men and women alike, enjoy the holiness and the liberty and the freedom that we all deserve. May this be the gift we give our nation. Shabbat Shalom.
I want to thank you, Rabbi Josh, for that powerful teaching and timely teaching and important teaching. And I just want to invite everybody here and all of you joining at home to make sure that you share that with your friends. As soon as our service is over, the video from tonight will be online and you can send that around, because everybody should hear what Rabbi Noble just shared with us. And we're going to offer a prayer for our nation on 258, but in some ways, that's exactly what you just did. But let's say these words on the bottom of the page, and let's think of ways that we can ensure liberty and justice for all of the citizens and inhabitants of this land, and that religious freedom and autonomy and the integrity of one's own body can be protected as well. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the world. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who've died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. And let us say Amen. And on page 259, I'm off to Israel on Tuesday, and the government just fell. But there won't be elections for a while, so I'm not going to get to participate in that process. But certainly right now, thinking and praying for stability. There's been, this will be the 5th election, I think, in 5 years. So there's some work to be done there. Let's say this prayer for Medinat Yisrael, for our homeland, in hopes that their leaders can be guided by light and justice, and they will behave on behalf of the community and not for their own needs.
Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzor Yisrael v'go'alo, Ba'arechet Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Geulateinu.
O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Let us say, Amen.
Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzor Yisrael v'go'alo. Amen. Selah. Amen. Selah.
On page 5, we offer words of Kiddush. It's an opportunity to think about all the sweet moments in our lives. So I'll invite those of you joining from home to please feel free to put in the chat if you have a birthday or an anniversary or some special occasion. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot here, but I do know that we have a couple of couples here who are getting married soon. So if you wanted to come up and have a little, it's juice. I can't offer you the fine wine, but maybe a little juice. And I also know a young man who's going to become bar mitzvah in a couple months. Maybe you'd come up. And again, those of you joining from home, share with us some of the joyous moments in your life. We're on page 5 for Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha b'yahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh Kiddush HaShabbat. L'chaim.
Aleinu L'Shabeach is on page 282. Please remain standing.
Aleinu L'Shabeach Ladon HaKol, Lateit Gedula Leotzer Bereshit, Shelo Asanu Kigoye Ha'aratzot, Velo Samanu Kemishbechot Ha'adama, Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem, Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Ve'anachnu Korim Umishtachavim Umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ve'nemar Ve'haya Adonai Lemelech Al Kol Haaretz Bayom Hahu Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo 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 Echad.
Please be seated. Ish kochavim shoram magia artsa, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. There are stars up above so far away, we only see their light long after the star itself is gone. So it is with the people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, those are the lights that guide us. And as we live our days, these are the ways that we remember. If you are currently in mourning, either sitting Shiva the first 7 days of mourning for a loved one, or Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning for a loved one, or in the first year of mourning the loss of a parent, or commemorating a yortzeit, the anniversary of a loved one's passing. For those of you who are at home, we invite you to share the names of your beloved with us. For those in person, we invite you to rise. I want to thank you for honoring your loved ones here together with us tonight. I'd like to ask for those whom it is your custom to please rise. For Kaddish Yatom, page 294 is where we can find Kaddish Yatom. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra cherute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'gala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam olmei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpohar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'miran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha. We ask that the memories of our loved ones forever remain a blessing, and together we say,
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. In any service, it takes a little bit to put things together, and so we have some words of thanks. Of course, to our amazing musicians, to our cantorial intern, Andrew, to Tally and to Jeff, to our amazing crew who's bringing us right into your homes or to wherever you're vacationing, depending on where you're tuning into us. And of course, to the wonderful service leadership of our senior rabbi, Rabbi Yoshi, but most of all, to you, our community. You are what makes Shabbat meaningful. You're what makes Shabbat happen. And we're about to pray for peace. And I know it seems like it's a long road till we get to peace. but we still got to keep praying for it just the same. Please join us together. Words of Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh Shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh Shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh Shalom aleinu. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh Shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh Shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh Shalom aleinu. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom.